The last time Cindy Williams and Penny Marshall spoke as true friends was in August 1982. At that moment, neither of them knew it would be the end of a relationship that had changed their lives and television history. Cindy was pregnant and asked for one simple thing that she believed was reasonable. The response she received shocked her so deeply that she chose to walk away from millions of dollars, a hit television show, and a partnership that had made her famous. She did not look back. When that decision was made, their show ended, their friendship ended, and a silence followed that lasted for nearly 30 years. The entertainment industry quietly moved on and buried the details of what truly happened during those final negotiations. What remained hidden for decades was the harsh reality of a system that forced a pregnant woman to choose between her career and her child. What was demanded of Cindy Williams during that time was something no one should ever have been asked to accept. To understand how everything fell apart, it helps to understand where Penny Marshall came from and what shaped her long before fame arrived. Penny was born in 1943 and grew up in the Bronx, a place full of noise, energy, and ambition. From the moment she opened her eyes, her world felt crowded with life. Her family lived at 3235 Grand Concourse, an apartment building that somehow became home to people who would later change American culture. Neil Simon lived there. Calvin Klein grew up there. Ralph Lauren lived there too, and even Paddy Chayefsky passed through the same halls. Penny was surrounded by creative energy long before she understood its value. Her mother was a strict dance teacher who believed in discipline and structure. When Penny was just 3 years old, her mother pushed her into tap shoes and placed her on stage. Soon she was performing with the Marmaidettes at local events, her small feet tapping out rhythms while her mother shouted counts from the side. Their apartment was small and cramped, but it was always alive with sound. Music filled the rooms, stories were shared constantly, and the hum of her father's industrial film reels played in the background. Every day, Penny's tap shoes clicked across the floor, and without realizing it, she absorbed lessons in discipline, timing, and showmanship. These skills settled deep inside her. Her talent grew quickly. By the age of 3, she was already creating little dance routines of her own. By 6, she was helping her mother teach other children. She learned how to be funny without breaking the rhythm and how to be serious without losing the audience. By her teenage years, she was already a dancer, a teacher, and someone who could feel the pull of performance deep inside her. Those early years shaped her in ways she would not fully understand until much later, when she stepped onto television and movie sets that were far less forgiving than any Bronx stage. Life then took an unexpected turn. Penny left New York and went to the University of New Mexico, where she studied math and psychology. At 19, her life changed again when she became pregnant. She married her boyfriend, Michael Henry, in 1963 and gave birth to her daughter, Tracy Rayner. For a time, Penny tried to balance school, work, and motherhood, but the pressure became too much. She eventually left college and supported her young family by working as a choreographer for the Albuquerque Civic Light Opera Association. The marriage did not last. After 3 years, it fell apart, and by 1966, Penny found herself alone, a single mother with very little money and even fewer safety nets. That moment hardened her in some ways, but it also pushed her to aim higher. She wanted something better for her daughter. In 1967, she moved to Los Angeles with hope and fear mixed together. She worked as a secretary and took any small performance job she could find. Slowly, she became part of her brother Gary Marshall's creative world, where writers, actors, and comedians came and went at all hours. Gary encouraged her to take acting classes and gave her small roles whenever he could. Penny accepted every opportunity. She played strange, awkward characters in commercials and leaned into qualities that other actresses tried to hide. In one commercial, she was cast as the messy, awkward before girl with stringy hair, while Farrah Fawcett played the glamorous after. Penny laughed about it later, but at the time it hurt. Still, she learned to use her awkwardness as strength. It became part of her identity. Each small role helped build her confidence. She kept showing up, kept trying, and kept working while others gave up. Networks doubted she could ever lead a show, but she continued proving she could hold attention and deliver laughs. In 1970, she landed the role of Myrna Turner on The Odd Couple. It was not a huge role, but over 4 years, She played the secretary with warmth, honesty, and sharp humor that audiences loved. Those years were not glamorous. They were tiring and sometimes painful, but they built the toughness that later made her comedy seem effortless. Cindy Williams grew up in a very different environment, but her journey had its own challenges. She was born on August 22, 1947, in Van Nuys, California. Her father worked repairing electronics, and her mother waited tables while raising Cindy and her sister, Carol Ann. When Cindy was just 1 year old, the family moved to Dallas, but they returned to Los Angeles when she was 10. During those early years, Cindy discovered her love for acting. She wrote small plays and performed them in church halls and school stages. She dreamed of being discovered by Debbie Reynolds and imagined being swept into stardom. Those dreams felt big inside her modest home, but they gave her direction and purpose. At Birmingham High School, Cindy stood out for her humor and natural timing. She was only 1 year behind Sally Field. During a talent show, she performed Bob Newhart's driving instructor routine, and the audience responded immediately. After graduating, she attended Los Angeles City College to study theater arts. There she met Lynn Stewart, and together they sneaked into auditions, hoping for a breakthrough. Cindy balanced classes with casting calls, learning how to survive the uncertainty that comes with chasing an acting career. Then her persistence paid off. In the early 1970s, Cindy booked 3 major films in a short time. In 1972, she appeared in George Cukor's Travels with My Aunt. In 1973, she played Laurie Henderson in George Lucas's American Graffiti. That film launched the careers of Ron Howard, Harrison Ford, and Richard Dreyfuss. Cindy's performance earned her a BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actress in 1974. Later that same year, she appeared in Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation. At just 26, she was already working with legendary directors, and it seemed like her career was about to take off. But Hollywood does not always reward talent fairly. Despite her strong credits, Cindy's film career slowed. She was too recognizable to return to waiting tables, but not famous enough to land leading movie roles. She took guest appearances on television shows like Room 222 and continued auditioning, but nothing matched her abilities. She found herself stuck in an uncomfortable place, known and respected, yet unable to move forward. Television became the turning point for both women. Before either became a household name, Cindy and Penny were paired together to write sitcom scripts. They connected instantly. When Gary Marshall needed 2 fast-talking Milwaukee women for a guest appearance on Happy Days, he thought of them. They auditioned and immediately stood out. Laverne Shirley were meant to appear in only 1 episode, but the chemistry was undeniable. Viewers loved them, and the reaction was immediate. The network ordered a spin-off, and what started as a small opportunity became a national phenomenon. Laverne Shirley became one of the most popular shows in America. The characters were funny, flawed, and relatable in ways women on television rarely were at the time. They were not glamorous or polished. They were working-class women with messy apartments, strange neighbors, and real struggles. They worked as bottle cappers at the Schatz Brewery in Milwaukee, a city rarely shown on television. The audience believed their friendship because it felt genuine. Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams shaped the show as much as any writer, bringing their own experiences and instincts into the characters. In January 1976, something unusual happened on television. Laverne Shirley appeared on Happy Days on January 27, and the audience response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 3 months, the network approved a full series. By the following January, the show aired right after Happy Days on Tuesday nights. More than 16 million people tuned in to the debut. It was clear the audience wanted these women in their lives. For years, the show thrived. Behind the scenes, however, pressures grew. Long hours, tight schedules, and high expectations weighed heavily on everyone involved. By 1982, Cindy Williams became pregnant, and that joyful moment should have been supported. Instead, it became the breaking point. Cindy asked for basic accommodations during her pregnancy, believing they could be worked out. What she received instead was a response that made it clear the system did not care about her health or her child. She was forced to choose between continuing under conditions she found unacceptable or walking away entirely. Cindy chose her baby. That decision ended her role on the show, her partnership with Penny Marshall, and their friendship. Penny continued, but the heart of the show was gone. Laverne and Shirley did not survive the split. For decades, the real story remained hidden. When the truth finally emerged, it revealed how cruel and unforgiving the industry could be, especially to women. Cindy Williams paid a heavy price, but she never regretted protecting her child. Penny Marshall carried her own pain, and though both women found success in different ways afterward, the silence between them remained. Their story is not just about fame or television. It is about friendship, ambition, and a system that forced impossible choices. It reminds us that behind every successful show are real people, real sacrifices, and moments that change everything forever. They spent long nights joking together and making each other laugh while working on scenes. They would stay up late rewriting dialogue, adding small jokes, and trying new ideas until they were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. This shared creativity shaped the physical comedy and playful rhythm that the show later became famous for. Their real friendship naturally flowed into their performances. When Penny Marshall later said that they were more than friends and more like family, she truly meant it. The audience could feel that closeness on screen, even though they had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. As the show moved into its third and fourth seasons, its popularity exploded. By 1978 and 1979, Laverne and Shirley had become the most watched television program in the United States. In 1979 alone, more than 30 million people tuned in every week to watch the show. Cindy Williams and Penny Marshall suddenly became two of the biggest stars on television. Their success led to crossover episodes with Happy Days and pushed their characters deep into popular culture. Very few sitcoms managed to reach that level of influence. Even after the show ended in 1983, reruns continued to attract large audiences for many years. However, massive success brought serious pressure. Behind the scenes, cracks began to appear. The work schedule was extremely demanding. Because the show was filmed using multiple cameras in front of a live audience, the days were long and exhausting. They often worked 14 to 16 hours a day. Rehearsals began early on Monday mornings and continued through Saturday, with tapings happening on Sundays. Sometimes new script pages arrived only a few hours before filming. Cindy Williams later shared that she was so exhausted she could not sleep at night and would sometimes fall asleep between takes. Penny Marshall also admitted that the intense pace drained them both physically and emotionally, leaving almost no time for a personal life. Creative tension also started to grow. Writers argued over whether the show should lean more into exaggerated slapstick comedy or stay focused on character-based humor. Penny often had more influence because her brother, Gary Marshall, was an executive producer. Cindy sometimes felt her opinions were ignored or pushed aside. Arguments broke out over jokes, scenes, and storylines. Writers came and went because many could not handle the pressure. Reports from the set described shouting, swearing, and constant tension. While the show remained funny on screen, behind the laughter was deep exhaustion that affected everyone involved. The situation became so fragile that producers quietly began testing other actresses as a possible replacement for Cindy Williams. They feared she might leave and worried about losing the chemistry that made the show work. Actress Liberty Williams was even filmed in a test scene with Penny Marshall. When ABC executive Michael Eisner watched both versions, he decided the replacement did not work. He later said the test was fine, but it did not have the magic. He reportedly hid the test tape and made sure Cindy's performance was the one shown to top executives. This moment showed how close the show came to falling apart even before it reached its peak success. As time went on, more problems surfaced. Penny Marshall's growing creative power sometimes made Cindy feel overshadowed. Cindy wanted more control over her character and the direction of the stories, while network executives focused mainly on keeping ratings high. Each new demand added pressure and slowly pushed the two actresses further apart. Their once effortless friendship became strained as both women struggled to balance ambition, creative control, and the heavy demands of fame. Then came the moment that changed everything. Cindy Williams learned she was pregnant, and instead of receiving support, she felt the production expected her to continue working without meaningful changes to her schedule. She believed the job valued performance more than her health or her baby's safety. Producers planned for her to keep appearing on set deep into her pregnancy and even scheduled work close to her due date. Cindy did not feel this was safe and refused to accept long hours she might not physically handle. Penny tried to ease the tension with humor and joked that Cindy would be the biggest pain in the ass pregnant person, but by then the stress was overwhelming. Cindy left the show after appearing in only 2 episodes of the 8th season because she felt she had no other choice. Her pregnancy in 1982 came at a time when her personal life and career were pulling her in opposite directions, and the pressure intensified every day. She was expecting her first child and simply asked for reduced hours and a safer schedule. To her, the request was reasonable. The studio, however, insisted she maintain her full workload regardless of how far along she was. Soon, Cindy felt trapped in an impossible situation. She was forced to choose between protecting her unborn child and continuing her career. When she refused to sign a contract that required her to work through the pregnancy without accommodations, everything fell apart. What started as a simple request turned into a serious conflict about rights and respect during a time when pregnant actresses had very little protection. Once the studio pushed back, negotiations collapsed quickly. By August 1982, Cindy Williams filed a $20 million lawsuit against Paramount Television and the show's producers. She claimed they were trying to force her out and refused to respect her medical needs. The lawsuit made headlines and sparked a national conversation about fairness and treatment of women in Hollywood. Although the case was eventually settled quietly for an undisclosed amount, the damage was already done. Cindy was released from her contract and removed from the show before most of the 8th season even aired. The legal battle shook her career and exposed how vulnerable women still were when they tried to stand up for themselves in a male-dominated industry. Only 2 episodes of the 8th season included her. After that, her character Shirley Feeney was written out quickly and without much care. The story simply said Shirley got married and moved away. There was no emotional farewell, no meaningful goodbye, and no real closure for the fans who had followed her for years. The writers had little time to create a proper exit, so everything felt rushed and hollow. Viewers who were used to the strong bond between Laverne and Shirley immediately felt the loss. The rhythm of the show changed, and the absence was noticeable in every episode. Once Cindy Williams was gone, the series became something very different. It shifted into Laverne and Company, with Penny Marshall carrying the show on her own. Although Penny continued to work hard, the heart of the original partnership was gone, and the magic that once defined the show could never fully be replaced. Even Penny Marshall later admitted that Cindy's departure changed everything. She said it felt like watching Lucy without Ethel. The energy was no longer the same, and the special chemistry that made the show work was gone. Viewers noticed the difference almost immediately. Ratings dropped quickly, and while ABC briefly talked about doing a 9th season, Penny refused to continue without her partner. Because of that decision, Laverne and Shirley ended after 8 seasons and 178 episodes. One exit did not just end a show, it quietly changed the direction of both women's lives and left a lasting mark on television history. At the time, fans were shocked and confused. Rumors spread everywhere. People whispered that Cindy and Penny had fought badly or betrayed each other. Many believed there was personal hatred and secret drama behind the scenes. The truth, however, was much simpler. Cindy's fight was with the studio, not with Penny. She was asking for safe working conditions during her pregnancy, and the producers refused. That refusal led to the lawsuit, and the public misunderstood almost everything that followed. Cindy later explained that her friendship with Penny never truly disappeared. It was buried under legal pressure, contracts, and headlines that twisted the story into something easier to sell than the real truth. Penny carried her own regrets for many years. In her memoir, she wrote that she tried to reach out to Cindy after she left the show, but she kept hitting walls made of managers, agents, and business people. She could not get through to her friend. For a long time, they only exchanged short greetings at public events. These moments were polite but empty and never allowed for real conversation. Penny missed Cindy deeply. She wished they had talked sooner and cleared the air instead of letting silence grow between them. For nearly 15 years after the show ended in 1983, their contact was limited to quick waves at award shows or brief words at reunions. Neither woman explained the strain publicly, which only made people believe the rumors that they hated each other. Busy schedules, unresolved feelings, and the heavy weight of the past kept them apart. It was not anger that separated them, but everything surrounding them. It was not until the early 2000s that they finally began to rebuild what they had lost. The turning point came in 2000, when Penny Marshall received a message from David Lander. He told her that Cindy Williams' marriage to Bill Hudson was falling apart and that Cindy was struggling. Penny felt something shift inside her as she read it. Despite the distance and the years of silence, she had always cared deeply for Cindy. This news felt different. It felt like a small opening she had been waiting for without even realizing it. She understood that she could now reach out as a friend, not as a coworker tied to old conflicts. Not long after Cindy finished a stage play that same year, she went to Penny's house. The moment felt heavy and long overdue. They sat together and finally talked about the pain that had stayed with them since their split on the show. Penny later wrote that it was the conversation she had wished for 15 years earlier. Everything came out, the misunderstandings, the hurt, and the silence that had lasted far too long. Cindy admitted she had missed Penny more than she ever allowed herself to say, and Penny felt the same way. As they talked, the tension slowly softened. It felt like peeling back layers of time, and by the end of the night, their old bond began to breathe again. Penny reflected on how long she had wanted that moment. 15 full years had passed without either of them saying what truly needed to be said. Now the truth was finally out in the open. Cindy shared that she wished she had stayed in touch, and Penny admitted her own frustration and sadness. That honesty cleared something deep inside both of them. Penny later said that they had shared too much of their lives for her to ever see Cindy as anything other than someone special. That simple thought showed how deep their connection had always been. After that conversation, a new chapter began. Their private healing made it possible for them to appear together again in public. They reunited for specials, gave interviews filled with memories, and sat side by side on talk shows once more. Fans could still see the spark they remembered, and people loved watching them together again after so many years. Their reunions on networks like ABC and Nickelodeon carried a warmth that had been missing for decades. Still, the healing did not happen overnight. Even during their 20-year ABC reunion in 1995, some viewers sensed tension beneath the laughter. They revisited their characters and shared stories, but a slight stiffness remained. Close friends and careful watchers noticed it. The past still weighed on them, and it took more time for everything to fully settle. Even so, the care between them was clear. It simply needed patience. While all of this was unfolding, Penny Marshall was building a powerful career behind the camera. Her first major directing success came with Jumpin' Jack Flash in 1986, which earned over $25 million in the United States. Then came Big in 1988, starring Tom Hanks. That film made history as the first movie directed by a woman to earn more than $100 million at the domestic box office. It finished with $116 million in the United States alone. Penny followed that with Awakenings in 1990, starring Robin Williams and Robert De Niro, a film praised by critics and honored with Academy Award nominations. In 1992, she directed A League of Their Own, a movie that became a cultural landmark and showed audiences something new and powerful. Penny kept proving that her voice mattered in an industry where very few women had real power, and her influence is still felt decades later. Cindy Williams chose a quieter and steadier path. After the massive success of Laverne Shirley, she did not chase the same level of fame, but she continued working and found balance. She starred in the film Euphoria in 1985 and made guest appearances on popular shows such as 8 Simple Rules, Lois and Clark, Touched by an Angel, and Law and Order SVU throughout the 1990s and 2000s. In 2007, she appeared on Broadway as Mrs. Tottendale in The Drowsy Chaperone. Her memoir, Shirley, I Jest, was released in 2015 and offered honest reflections on her career, struggles, and memories. While she did not pursue blockbuster success like Penny, She built a life filled with loyal fans, meaningful work, and lasting connections. Through all the changes and challenges, both women spoke about their friendship as something rare and special. They remembered their early days as roommates and how easily they made each other laugh. In her memoir, My Mother Was Nuts, Penny wrote that even during their long separation, her affection for Cindy never faded. Cindy often said that some of the best laughs of her life were shared with Penny. They both knew that if they could make each other laugh, the audience would laugh too. Their chemistry felt natural, as if it lived inside them. Time eventually moved on for both of them. Penny Marshall passed away on December 17, 2018, at the age of 75. Cindy Williams passed away on January 24, 2023, also at the age of 75. Before her death, Cindy spoke about Penny with deep love and tenderness, calling her one in a million and remembering the joy they shared. Their deaths marked the end of an era for everyone who grew up watching Laverne and Shirley or followed their journeys afterward. Their careers took different paths, their lives unfolded in different ways, but their friendship, with all its breaks, healing, and honesty, remains one of the most human and unforgettable parts of their story.